This isn't just a crack in the Sussex fairy tale, this is a seismic rupture, the kind that makes the walls tremble and the mirrors fall. Because tonight, the question is no longer is something off? The question is, what if the story of Lilibet was never the story we were told at all? This is where whispers turn into accusations. This is where timelines bleed. This is where emotion, ambition, and secrecy collide, and where Tom Bower lights a match and walks away. Take a breath, because once you step into this story, there is no clean way out. When Tom Bower dropped what insiders are calling the most dangerous royal expose in years, it didn't arrive screaming. It arrived smiling, polished, calm, devastating. And buried inside it was something far more unsettling than gossip, more corrosive than rumor. A claim so explosive that even hardened royal watchers went quiet. Not just inconsistencies, not just unanswered questions, but a witness, a real person, stepping out of the shadows, claiming she was allegedly offered money, cash, for her own child to appear on camera as Lilibet. A role, a performance, a stand-in for a child who, according to this revelation, may not exist the way the world believes she does. Tom Bower exposes Meghan's big. Let that sink in. Because if that allegation is even partially true, then we're not talking about tabloid drama anymore. We're talking about a manufactured reality, carefully staged, fiercely protected, and aggressively sold. And once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. It all begins with a story that was meant to break hearts. A miscarriage, a lockdown, a sacred burial beneath a banyan tree. Harry told it like a movie scene. Empty streets, silence hanging heavy in the air, his hands digging into the earth as he laid the remains of an unborn child to rest. Painful, poetic, perfect, too perfect. Because the moment professionals started listening, the fantasy began to wobble. Banyan trees don't grow where they claim to be. Hospitals do not release fetal remains for private burial, especially during strict COVID restrictions. Partners were often barred entirely. No paperwork, no clearance, no quiet backyard ritual. And yet the story stood, untouched, applauded, until people started counting. The math didn't whisper, it screamed. July 2020, the miscarriage. Less than a year later, a full-term baby. Women around the world did what women do instinctively. They calculated healing time, hormonal recovery, biological reality, and the numbers didn't bend. They broke, not by days, by months. And while timelines strained under pressure, Meghan was reportedly lifting a toddler daily, appearing energetic, mobile, unencumbered, behaviors that raised eyebrows among mothers who knew exactly what late pregnancy and postpartum recovery actually feel like. But instead of answers, the narrative moved forward. A new pregnancy, a new chapter. A fresh coat of paint over an unstable foundation. The cracks stayed. Medical experts weighed in, quietly at first, then more firmly. At 39, miscarriage risk rises sharply. Chromosomal abnormalities are common. Most losses occur early and resolve clinically, not theatrically. Stress doesn't cause miscarriage the way Harry publicly suggested. Lawsuits don't. Headlines don't. Moving houses doesn't. Blaming external forces isn't just medically inaccurate, it's dangerous. Because it feeds guilt. It implies fault. And women who have lost pregnancies already carry enough invisible blame without being told it's something they did or something someone else caused. That's why so many women didn't feel seen by Meghan's essay. They felt disturbed. Instead of recognition, there was distance. Instead of raw truth, there was choreography. Women who had lived through miscarriage spoke out, not cruelly, but honestly. They talked about silence, shock, numbness, not singing lullabies in hospital rooms, not cinematic closure. One woman said it felt like grief had been dressed up for applause. Another said the framing made her feel sick, like something private had been weaponized for narrative control. And slowly, quietly, a new suspicion took root. This wasn't just about loss, it was about storytelling. That suspicion grew teeth when people from Meghan's past began to speak. Not palace insiders, not royal aides, but friends, old ones, the kind who knew her before crowns and cameras. They spoke of fertility fears, of egg freezing conversations, of endometriosis, of debilitating pain, of life-altering medical decisions. One claim cut deeper than all the others that Meghan had allegedly undergone a hysterectomy in her 20s. Unconfirmed, explosive, impossible to ignore. Because when those claims are placed beside bending bumps, shifting silhouettes, and pregnancies that seem to defy physical limits, the picture stops looking accidental. It starts looking engineered. And then comes the moment that chills everything. Australia, 2018. Behind closed doors, away from cameras, during a tour meant to showcase unity and promise, something cracked. An argument overheard, whispered about, never denied. Harry, allegedly tense and shaken, asked a question no husband ever wants to ask. Are you really pregnant? That sentence hangs in the air like smoke. It suggests doubt. It suggests fear. It suggests that something didn't align even for him. The timing of the pregnancy announcement had reportedly angered palace staff, hijacked the tour, shifted focus. And Harry, once animated, appeared strained, distant, almost haunted. That question didn't come from nowhere. Questions never do, but nothing prepared anyone for what came next. A woman in Costa Rica stepped forward publicly, claiming Meghan had allegedly hired her daughter to pose as Lilibet during a visit. She said no Sussex children were present. She said she was never paid. She said the couple left abruptly, and suddenly people noticed something else. The children never seemed traceable. Different photos, different faces, different ages, announcements that appeared and vanished, screenshots showing Archie born via surrogate then disappearing without explanation. Two versions, two stories, zero answers, and that's when the whispers became a roar. Because when you line it all up, the miscarriage that defied medicine, the pregnancies that defied time, the friends who spoke of infertility, the husband who questioned reality, the witness who claims a stand-in child, one question becomes unavoidable and terrifying. Who is Lilibet really? This is where the story stops being confusing and starts being dangerous. And this is only the beginning. If part one cracked the surface, this is where the ground collapses. Because once the question, who is Lilibet, is spoken out loud, everything that once looked like coincidence starts arranging itself into something far more deliberate and far more disturbing. This is the point where silence becomes strategy. For years, the Sussex story has relied on one powerful shield: privacy. Every missing detail was excused as protection. Every inconsistency waved away as boundaries. Every refusal framed as moral superiority. But privacy only works when it's consistent, and what began to trouble investigators wasn't what the public didn't see, it was what they were selectively allowed to see. Blurry photos, tightly cropped images, children always facing away, obscured or mid-motion, no live appearances, no spontaneous moments, no unscripted encounters. Royal children are usually shielded, yes, but they still exist in a traceable reality. School runs, baptisms, witnesses, documentation, a human footprint. With Lilibet, there was only mythology. Tom Bower's work didn't accuse outright, and that's what made it lethal. He didn't need to shout, he simply placed facts beside each other and let the silence scream. And that silence grew louder when palace watchers realized something chilling: there was no formal medical confirmation ever released. No hospital acknowledgement, no attending physician speaking on record, no traditional royal documentation. For a family obsessed with legacy, that absence was deafening. And then came the witness, the one detail that refuses to disappear. A woman who didn't hide behind anonymity, who didn't tease, who didn't retreat. She alleged that Meghan sought a child for appearances, a role, a moment, a visual confirmation for the cameras. Tom Bower exposes Meghan's big. That allegation detonated everything. Because if even one public appearance involved a stand-in, then every appearance becomes suspect. Every photograph reopens. Every memory fractures. And suddenly, people began revisiting footage they'd ignored before. They noticed how the child's hair color shifted dramatically between appearances, how age progression seemed inconsistent, how developmental stages didn't align, how photos released months apart appeared to show entirely different children. Parents noticed, photographers noticed, former palace staff noticed, and still no explanation. Then there's the matter of names. Lilibet Diana, a name designed to pierce the heart, one that evokes Queen Elizabeth's most intimate nickname and Princess Diana's eternal legacy. A name so emotionally charged it functioned like armor. Who would dare question anything wrapped in that much symbolism? That wasn't accidental, that was psychological insulation. Because the moment anyone questioned Lilibet, the narrative snapped back hard. How dare you? How dare you question a child? How dare you intrude? But here's the uncomfortable truth no one wanted to say out loud. People weren't questioning a child, they were questioning a story. And stories, especially public ones, demand accountability. As scrutiny intensified, something else happened. Something subtle but telling. The Sussexes stopped talking about the children almost entirely. Not lovingly, not casually, not naturally. They became abstract. Concepts. Ideas. Props mentioned only when useful, never elaborated on, never grounded in real-world detail. No funny anecdotes, no ordinary frustrations, no parental slip-ups, just silence. That isn't how proud parents behave. That's how people guard a secret. And then there's Harry, because through all of this, his body language changed. Watch him closely in later interviews. The forced smiles, the hesitation before answering questions about family life, the way his eyes dart, his jaw tightens, his sentences trail off. This is not a man protecting privacy. This is a man protecting a narrative he may not fully control. And when people remember that alleged argument, that haunting question whispered in Australia, it took on new meaning. Are you really pregnant? That wasn't anger. That was fear. Every great deception leaves behind collateral damage. And here, that damage appears in the form of constant relocation, broken friendships, severed family ties, and an almost obsessive need to control every frame. Isolation isn't accidental. It's protective. And the more the Sussexes pulled away from institutions that require verification, palaces, protocols, documentation, the more insulated the story became. No oversight, no witnesses, no accountability. Perfect conditions for a carefully curated illusion. Critics say this theory is too big, too risky, too outrageous, but history disagrees. Public figures have faked pregnancies, used surrogates secretly, invented timelines, paid for silence. The difference here isn't possibility, it's scale. This wasn't done for privacy. It was done for leverage. Because children aren't just family in royal narratives, they're currency, titles, lineage, media power, emotional shields, untouchable assets. And if the Sussex brand required a daughter born at a specific moment with a specific name carrying a specific symbolic weight, then the pressure to deliver that image would have been immense, crushing. So where does that leave us now? With a question no one in authority seems willing to answer. No denial, no clarification, no documentation, just silence. And silence in an investigation like this is never neutral. It's loud. Tom Bauer didn't say Lilibet doesn't exist. He did something far more dangerous. He showed that no one can prove she exists the way we've been told. And until that proof appears, clear, verifiable, human, the mystery remains. This isn't cruelty. It isn't obsession. It isn't conspiracy. It's the natural result of a story built on emotion instead of evidence. Because in the end, secrets don't survive truth. They only survive time. And time is no longer on the Sussex side. The door has been opened. The questions are out. The witnesses have spoken. And whether answers come tomorrow or years from now, one thing is certain, this story is not over. Not even close. Not even close. Not even close. Not even